Welcome to Impact Point and welcome Jake Frazer, President of Precision Talent Solutions. It's wonderful to have you. Jake heads Precision Talent that focuses on GovCon recruiting. And this is a very, tumultuous time in the GovCon world, Jake, in many ways, because lots of change is happening. So my first question for you is, in this very dynamic environment, what should CEOs be thinking about as they're staffing for their various talent needs?
So, Nalima, first, thanks for having me on. It's great to be a guest on your podcast. As I was saying, bright minds think the same. We also have a podcast going on, so I know it's a lot of fun, and I'm super glad to be a guest on the podcast. It's
Thank you.
good to get to know you through the years through ISOA and also as a customer, and always have respected what you've built there with Q2 Impact. So definitely an honor to be here today.
Thank you.
Yeah. So look, CEOs have they got a big challenge in front of them right now from a talent perspective. I think 2025 has been the most tumultuous year in government contracting since 2001, since 9/11. The amount of change that's happened this year from an administration perspective, from a procurement reform perspective, technology, where AI has just become ubiquitous. It's created a lot of different types of changes all at once. And everything comes back to talent at the end of the day, right? You could be a supply chain company, but it's still just about talent. You could be a technology company, but at the end of the day, it's going to come back to your talent. So I think the challenge for CEOs going into 2026 is how do you adapt to these kind of major shifts that have happened in the industry? New government priorities, right? The defense, the homeland security, at the expense of other areas of the government where we've always been supporting. How does procurement reform change the way you build your business development teams, how you build your client engagement teams? And obviously, from the technology perspective, you got to find people that are fluent in technology, but you got to also retain the people that are deeply knowledgeable about your business, the industry, and the strategy. So it's a whole new problem set the CEOs have to face. I mean, there's no single answer, right? It's just good leadership. It's staying as close as you can to your customers and your people to understand what's going on, staying abreast of the latest trends of what's coming, trying to look down the pipeline so you know what to expect out of the industry so you can adjust your talent strategy accordingly.
Yeah. So, Jake, Precision Talent, of course, is a leader in the GovCon recruiting space. And, I have worked with your team, which is extraordinary in
Thank
doing
you.
what they do. And as we are navigating these very choppy waters right now, and the future is a little bit unclear, as a CEO, I struggle with what is it that I should be recruiting for? Because I'm not sure if this is going to stay or change. So, what advice have you been offering CEOs like me? And also, what trends are you seeing in the market right now?
Yeah, two good questions, Nalima. I think advice to CEOs from a talent perspective is, and I think the first area to focus on is your growth teams, your business development teams, because I think that's the area that's going through the most. It's going to change first. It's obviously focused on the future. So when CEOs are looking at their talent set and their business development shops, going back to my original comment, it's a whole new landscape that we're looking at from a talent perspective. I think the old ways of doing long captures, relationship-based business development focused on people that have been buried in an agency for years and years. They worked that desk in State Department or they worked that desk at some DoD agency. I think that's changing. This administration has very clear priorities, whether you love them or not, or maybe you do love them. Their priorities are definitely different. I think we've all seen the shuffling of talent within the government, where a lot of longstanding relationships just aren't there anymore. And frankly, a lot of the influencing isn't happening through traditional lobbying and business development. There are pockets of influence within these agencies, within this administration, that you have to penetrate and get access to. And I'm talking to a CEO. I'm going to talk about, look at your BD teams, look at how you've been set up. It's going to be if this the second bucket, going back to the procurement reform, we're looking at more iterative, faster moving requirements and acquisitions, consolidation into GSA schedules where you need to find people that understand how that works, moving into larger IDI queues versus one-off procurements. So you need BD folks that understand this kind of new procurement landscape and look into the new, the reform that's going on and look for where there are opportunities. I think there are opportunities for dialogue with contracting officers that haven't been there for years, particularly in the DoD side, that CEOs should be thinking about. There's change going on the procurement side. So where are there opportunities? So you need to find the talent that can understand the changes to the FAR, that can understand these feedback loops so you can start shaping requirements actually with the contracting offices. And then finally, on the technology side, I think everybody knows companies are investing in technologies that can, shred an RFP, produce a 90% solution response, can do the pricing. 2 years ago, this was unthinkable, right? But there are a lot of good softwares out there now where your traditional roll up the sleeves, lock yourself in the conference room, get on the whiteboard. A lot of that's it's being done by AI. So you got to find business development leadership that maybe they're not experts on these systems, but they got to know how to manage them. They got to know how to build teams that can make the most of the new technology that's coming into the business development shops. So mapping back to those three changes, I think if I'm talking to a CEO, I would look at my BD shop. It's a whole different ball game from a business development perspective. And if you haven't changed your BD team or done an inventory against kind of these three buckets, the way things happen going forward are not going to be the way they were 2 years ago. And if you kind of have the same team, the same setup, and you haven't adjusted, then I think you're going to miss the boat. On the other hand, if you go through and kind of do an inventory of what you have from a talent perspective in your BD shop against these sea changes that are happening in the industry, I think you have a chance to get ahead of the competition.
Yeah. So it seems to me that there's almost a mindset shift that needs to occur for executives, right? Because this is so different from the way it's been and the way we have been used to operating for so many years. And what kind of shifts should CEOs be having in their mindset as they're trying to find this sort of talent? What should CEOs be thinking about in their head? Because those of us who have been around for a while, this is very different from what we are used to.
Yeah, you gotta ask the right questions and how to assess talent that you're looking to hire. I would recommend more now than ever to look at tools like personality assessments and psychometrics to help identify executives who are going to be open to learning new things, who can absorb new processes, new technologies. And a lot of that you can, if you're using the right assessment tools, we use a tool called ClearScreen. It's a great way to identifying people who are open to change but not whimsical, people who are creative and can absorb new ways of doing things, versus if you're hiring people that are set in their ways and the way we've always done it is the way it's going to be. I think that's a problem. Second is understanding the questions to ask as you're looking at new talent. How do you explore an individual's, let's say on the business development side, how do you explore their view of capture under these kind of a new environment? How are people going to change from the old model to a newer model from a capture perspective, where we're not looking at 2-3 year acquisitions anymore? We're talking about faster turnaround acquisitions. We're talking about getting on the right procurement vehicles, looking at the right teaming strategies under the small business and, the changes in the small business environment. So having the right questions that you're asking business development talent as you're bringing it onto your team. And then writ large, I've talked a lot about business development, but I think in general, look, you have this need for institutional knowledge and sage advice and wisdom and an understanding of a company's strategy. But you also have a need to bring in people that are natives with AI. They're technology natives. I don't know about you. I graduated from university. I didn't even own a computer. Like, I've had to learn everything. You have kind of the old school, and then you need to have this new school, and you got to figure out how you're going to bring them together so that you can get the right kind of outcomes, tapping into the experience and the knowledge of your senior team, but also integrating this tech savvy, AI hungry natives who can help transform your organization. I think it's a good time to everybody stop. Let's kind of see who we have on the team. What's our mix? The tool we have, you have collaborators, you have contributors, you have catalysts, I'm a creator, I'm an entrepreneur. I think it's a good time to not looking at resumes and not looking at necessarily even education. Go back, and it's a good time to inventory what you have from a personality type and figure out, okay, who on our team is going to be most likely to absorb change, right? And who might be resistant to change, who's going to be more entrepreneurial, who's going to be more supportive, and being able to map your organization. There are a lot of tools. You can use Myers-Briggs. You can use the one we have, the Clear Screen, but there's a lot of different tools. So I think it's a good time to inventory what you have. And also, it's something we're doing internally. We're trying to benchmark, where are we on AI adoption? What's our competency level as an organization? Basically putting everybody in the company through a test or an assessment, just like I'm not like an AI native, right? And I got guys on my team that, wake up every day and they just think that way. And their default is, how can I use AI to solve this problem? So maybe I'm a 4 out of 10, and my man Bessart's a 9.5 out of 10, and kind of a map where everybody is and where we are as an organization. And then let's start finding the gaps and how can we upskill the organization to get everybody let's get the team to a 7.5 on just, knowledge and understanding of how and when to use prompts, what tools to use for which tasks. So mapping the organization, doing some sort of assessment to see where you are right now so you can train to the gaps. And then, kind of looking at your strategy and imagining, maybe throw out the old org chart, because we're always just trying to move the org chart incrementally, right? Just, okay, well, we're going to move this box under here. And you feel like you've done a change, but also stepping back and just thinking about, okay, the market's changing rapidly and substantially, right? How am I set up, and how a year from now, if I could just redo the whole thing without any drama, or what would an ideal org chart look like? Yeah. And then you kind of touched on something but having this, we talk about mentor proteges, right? In the contracting world, but having, finding people who have strengths, let's say in technology, and pairing them with people maybe who have strengths in industry knowledge, business skills, whatever it might be, finance, business development, strategy, and looking for purposely, don't let two of the old school folks hang out together and not interface. Try and force people to mix together and do projects together so they can train each other. There's a lot to learn. And probably for the first time, folks at the top of the org chart are not the masters of the new knowledge. A lot of that resides on the newer folks within the organization.
I'm going to shift gears a little bit and talk about people, especially people who are perhaps not at the beginning of their careers, people who have had to change their careers or are thinking about changing their careers or trying to figure out, I have been doing this one thing for last, 10 years or 15 years. Okay. Now I'm in this market and I don't know what I should be doing in this market, right? Because everything is changing and the jobs that were open to them before are probably not open to them anymore, or there are many fewer jobs available to those people. And so what what advice would you offer them?
Yeah, that's a good question, Alima. You're talking about more mid and late career professionals versus entry level.
Could be even early part of their career, but 5 to 7 years in, right?
Yeah.
They're not just starting their first job. And those people, they went to school, got a certain degree, right? Thought they had a career. And now everything has changed and they're trying to figure out, what the heck do I do right now?
Yeah. But at the beginning of last year, we set up a business line called Career Concierge, basically to solve a business challenge that I have is a lot of people ask us for help and advice. Could you look at my resume? Can you give me some career advice? And man, we love helping people. But if we stopped every time someone asked for free advice, we would go out of
Yes.
business. So we built this business called Career Concierge,
Mhm.
and it's a structured way to help people figure out how to pivot their careers or to
Mhm.
reposition their careers. And actually, it was built on kind of pro bono advice that I've been doing for senior military folks for years and years and years, just as kind of like my give back.
Mhm.
And so we have a process. I'm going to say it again. I always have them start with a personality assessment. Like, go back to your core. Like, who are you? I use Myers Briggs a lot for this because I think there's a nice career report that Myers Briggs can do. A
Mhm.
lot of people get in a career path that actually is not congruent with their personality, and they find
Mhm.
themselves, there's tension, right? If you're doing something that maybe doesn't fit your personality. So, step one I have them do is do personality, figure out who you are at your core, understand what career fields or what career tracks are best suited for that type of personality, because you're going to be happier if you're doing something that fits your personality. Second thing we have them do is do a differentiator exercise. Like, what's different about you? Like, what's really different about you? It's not something like leadership or strategy. Like, what's really different about you? What do you bring to the table that almost no one else does? Whether it's a certain skill or an experience or an insight, an expertise that you might have, and make sure those three, you got to write down three differentiators and they got to really pop. I mean, they got to really mean something, and show them to your wife, show them to your kids, and make sure they agree as well and make sure they are different. Then we look at other things like career highlights. Like, what have you done in your career that you've just loved? Like, what are the three highlights of your career? And what we're trying to find there is what gets you excited? As you hit the second half of your career, you should do something you absolutely love. Like, I love what I do. I get up every morning. I can't wait to go do what I do. And I think people should try to get in that position if you can. First general I worked with, Steve Lanza, 3-star general, corps commander. I had him do his differentiators. Then I had him do his career highlights. And one of his career highlights was being the PAO, the public affairs officer. Like, interesting. Like, let's dig into that. Why was that? Like, what gets you excited? Look at things like your corporate core values. Like, what do you respect in companies? I have them do a list of 10 companies they admire, not necessarily in the industry, not necessarily companies they want to work for, but just brands they might admire. And dig into, like, why do they admire them, and try and find some common themes, some core values. Have them look at I say, types of companies. As you know, there's different types of companies have different governance, and therefore they have different ways to compensate people. They have different ways of forming strategy. So you take a publicly traded company, right? That's very transparent. Everything's published. You know everything about that company. They're geared towards quarterly earnings reports and share price, and it's pretty clear. And there are pros and cons there versus a startup, which is very opaque, lots of risk, lots of reward. Private equity owned companies where they're going to focus on growth, not necessarily culture, because they're not planning to keep the company longer than 3 to 5 years. So understanding the different types of companies, that's the next thing we look at. And then I think the most important thing is I call it your wealth function. Like, what makes you feel rich? And it's probably not money. Number one for me is helping people. I really get a kick out of helping people. I go out of my way to do it. Geography is important to me. I've spent my whole life living overseas because that's important to me. Like, this is how I make decisions. Some people, title's important. Some people, actually, it is money. Some people, work-life balance is important. So we have a 7 wealth function criteria, and we have the individuals list out, top rank their criteria. Now they have like filters. And then last but not least, what type of role? I always say in companies, you have 3 buckets. You have shared services, so like HR, finance, accounting, procurement, support functions. You have P&L, like
Mhm.
running teams and organizations and having profit, loss, and responsibility. And the third is business development. And so just trying to figure out which of those 3 buckets that you should be in. So this career pivot or career concierge service from personality, differentiators, finding your passions, knowing what your corporate core values are, knowing the type of organization you want to work for, and then which functional area. If you do all that and you do it right, what I say to people is, you should know what you want to do. If I say,
Mhm.
what do you want to do? And you're like, I can do anything. Well, that's not a good answer. I like someone that can
Mhm.
articulate exactly what they want to do.
Mhm.
And if you're going to do a career pivot, then know exactly what you want to do. And based upon those criteria, map out your targets, figure out who you know, and spend your time networking and learning about those companies and organizations. Don't
Mhm.
spend your time on
Mhm.
LinkedIn applying for jobs. I think it's a waste.
I love that. I really love that, Jake. And what a great service to be offering in the market, because I know that there are many people who are struggling with figuring out what is the next thing for them and are a little lost. So I love the approach that you're taking, which really forces you to dig a little bit deeper into yourself and figure out what is it that you really are passionate about
Yeah.
and what is it that you're good at doing. So I love the approach. Do you help them then find a job as well?
I would say I
As
can't guarantee we're going to find you a job, but I'll teach you how to look for a job, which I think
okay.
is kind of like I could take you to the water. I can't make you drink.
Well, that's
Or
even better, right?
I
Because
think
once you
so.
look, let's talk a little bit about something that you mentioned before, which is AI and technology. And, AI and technology is being used in every aspect of everything we do right now, including recruitment. And so I'd love to understand, how are you guys, Precision Talent, how are you guys using artificial intelligence, and how are you balancing that with the need for human engagement? And what is the right way to use AI as you're doing talent searches in the market?
Yeah, it's a good question. We've been using assessment tools and psychometrics for years, for 10 years, for predictive hiring. Going back to talk about personality assessment, cognitive assessment, chance of leadership success, all these things. And I think that's valuable, very valuable to understand not necessarily what someone has done, but what they're likely to do, how they're likely to behave, right? And
Mhm.
or I think that's the mindset you got to have when you're hiring. You're not hiring for someone's past, you're hiring for their future. The best way to do that is using, AI, psychometrics, personality assessment, all these tools, which we've been using for some time. I think
Mhm.
that the matching of resume and job description is going to get commoditized, right? You see it happening already. It's been happening for some time. And that's just going to accelerate. And we're okay with that because I think there are a lot of recruiting agencies that are going to call that good. Like this is a 92% match resume, but that's really very one dimensional. And we're very focused. I call it left side and right side. Left side is what can we AI, and right side is human touch,
Mhm.
empathy, understanding, knowledge of the industry, and how that individual would fit based upon what we know about the industry. And I think that from a recruiting perspective, I think corporate recruiting shops are going to think they're getting better and being more efficient because of AI and will do less of what's actually most important, which is the empathy, the engagement, the knowledge of the industry, knowledge of the market, knowledge of the competitive space,
Mhm.
which can be enhanced by AI, but it can't replace what a good recruiter does. And
Yeah.
a good recruiter, and I always say empathy is the core of great recruiting because you understand what the candidate's going through, their life situation, the trajectory they're on, their hopes, their dreams, all these things that are not in a resume.
Mhm.
In understanding the customer, because it's more than a job description that the
Mhm.
customers try to fill, right? They're trying to
Mhm.
fill an important person on their team. And
Mhm.
while AI can help you get part of the way there, for us, it gives us more time to spend, I call it on the right side, more time understanding our customers' challenges, understanding their culture, understanding their strategy, understanding where they
Mhm.
fit into the greater market, and then also understanding all those soft things about a candidate, which is going to ensure you get the right fit in the long run.
Mhm. 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 So it sounds like you're still using a lot of empathy and looking for those core skills when you're hiring a potential recruiter, as well as that's still the fundamentals of how you identify the right people really has not changed
That's it.
as part of the recruitment process.
And
In
typically,
fact, you're spending
yeah,
more time.
I don't hire many pure recruiters. I hire people that have been in industry, have been out on programs. I think that sense of empathy is enhanced a lot more. You can't buy a subscription to empathy.
Yeah.
So
Right.
most folks on our team have been out on projects and missions, and they've been the candidate, they've been the customer, they waited at the end of that long supply chain for that person to show up, and they know how important that first day of work is. And yeah, I think enhancing empathy right now is what's going to set companies apart, not just recruiting companies, but all companies. Really use AI. I mean, you should definitely use AI as much as possible, but you should spend more time on the empathy part. That'll set you apart.
So, on Impact Point, we have 3 takeaways at the end of each episode. And this has been an amazing conversation with you, Jake. And I could go on and on because I have so many more questions that I could be asking you. But in the interest of time, and since this is only a 20-minute podcast, please give us 3 takeaways that you'd like our audience to get from this conversation.
Okay, so the first one is a little bit self-serving, but I truly believe it. That's why I started this company is when it comes to key talent, like critical hires, and every company has its in-house recruiting apparatus and some's better than others, right? And I say that you should do 98% of your own recruiting in-house, but whenever you have critical hires, particularly around business development, strategy, growth, people that lead your main shared services verticals, use experts. Use a firm like ours that all we do every day is build around being great at finding, screening, presenting, and getting the right fit for you. So for the 2%, I'm not saying you have to use PTS, but don't look at us as a outside indirect cost. Look at us as a partner. And my best customers, I do monthly calls with the CEOs. We talk about what's going on in the market. We help with M&A targets. Like partner, find a search firm that fits you and partner with them. Okay, and don't see it as a threat. It's not a threat. It's a tool, and it's a huge enabler because at the end of the day, like I said, it all comes down to people, right? The second thing is the times are changing, as Bobby Dylan said, and this is like 1966 kind of change that's happening right now. Massive changes, and like I said, it's good to get caught up in guessing what's going to happen and punt it. Now's a really good time to do an inventory, to check what you got. Who do you have on the team? Are they in the right seats? Do you have the right personalities to absorb this change that's coming? Let your team know about changes and try and communicate the changes as much as you can. So yeah, do an inventory, see what you got, where you have gaps. Don't be afraid to make changes because if you're not making changes right now, something's probably wrong, right? Given everything that's happening externally. And then third, I would say, this is for the CEOs and the leaders out there, I think now more than ever is the time to spend with your team, to listen to them, hear what's going on, get close to the people, right? There's a lot of uncertainty, people wondering what's going on. So as leaders, now's the time to be out with your team, spending time with your team and with your customers, right? Because everybody's going through a lot of change. It's time to listen up, turn on that empathy button. Remember, you can't buy a subscription to empathy. Well, now's the time to really maximize empathy on all sides, customer side, your employees, and within your teams. So those are my 3 takeaways.
Great advice. And right on, Jake. I have a tremendous respect for what Precision does, and I have been a customer and continue to be impressed by what you guys are doing every day. So thank you so much for taking the time today and speaking with us. For our audiences, please do listen in and follow us on social media. Impact Point, Q2 Impact is the name of the company. Well, we'd love to listen from you and we'd love to hear about this podcast. And please send your comments on social media. Thank you very much.
Lima, thanks for having me on. It's great to spend time with a fellow GovCon entrepreneur too. You're great.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.